The arrow whistled past Elena Carmichael's ear, so close she felt the feathers brush her skin. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she pressed herself against the overturned stagecoach, the acrid smell of gunpowder and dust filling her nostrils. Around her, the other passengers' screams had fallen silent. Whether from death or terror, she couldn't tell. "Stay down, miss," shouted the wounded driver, blood streaming from his scalp. But Elena had already seen the Apache warriors circling them like wolves, their painted faces fierce in the desert sun. One of them, tall and broad-shouldered with obsidian hair streaming behind him, caught her gaze across the chaos. For a heartbeat that seemed to stretch into eternity, their eyes locked, his dark as midnight, hers wide with a mixture of fear and something she couldn't name. Before we continue with Elena's incredible journey, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to help me reach my first 50 subscribers. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more epic Western romance tales. Now, let's get back to the story. Elena had come west as a mail-order bride, traveling from Boston to marry a rancher she'd never met. At 24, she possessed a spirit too fierce for proper Boston society, auburn hair that refused to stay pinned, green eyes that sparked with defiance, and a mind sharp enough to read Latin and calculate cattle prices with equal ease. The rancher who'd sent for her had wanted a docile, God-fearing woman to bear children and keep house. He was about to be sorely disappointed. The Apache warrior who'd captured her attention vaulted over a boulder with fluid grace, landing mere feet from where she crouched. Up close, she could see the intricate beadwork on his buckskin shirt, the silver armband that caught the light and the way his muscles moved beneath bronze skin. When he spoke, his English was accented but clear. "You will come with us, woman with fire hair." "I most certainly will not." Elena's chin lifted defiantly, even as her pulse raced. "I'm expected in Tucson. There are people waiting for—" He silenced her with a gesture, but his dark eyes held something that wasn't quite cruelty. "Your people are dead or fled. You come, or you die here with the vultures." Elena glanced around the destroyed stagecoach. He was right. The driver had vanished, likely crawling away to die in the desert. The other passengers lay still. Her choice was simple: captivity or death. "What do you want with me?" "That remains to be seen, Elena Carmichael." Her blood chilled. "How do you know my name?" A slight smile curved his lips, the first hint of warmth she'd seen in his stern features. "We know many things. I am Ayana of the Chiricahua. You will learn to speak my true name." Before she could protest, he swept her up with surprising gentleness, settling her on his paint horse. The animal was magnificent, all wild spirit and barely contained power, much like its rider. As they rode away from the wreckage, Elena felt the last threads of her old life snapping like piano wires. The Apache camp materialized from the desert landscape as if by magic. Adobe and hide structures dotted a hidden canyon, protected by towering red rocks that glowed like flames in the setting sun. Women looked up from their work as Ayana rode in with his captive, their expressions ranging from curious to hostile. Children peeked out from behind their mothers' skirts, pointing at Elena's strange clothing and pale skin. An elderly woman with silver-streaked hair and eyes like chips of obsidian approached them. She spoke rapidly in Apache, gesturing toward Elena. Though she couldn't understand the words, Elena sensed she was the subject of heated debate. "My grandmother Itza," Ayana explained, dismounting and reaching up to help Elena down. "She questions the wisdom of bringing a white woman into our tribe." "Then why did you?" Elena found herself asking, surprised by her own boldness. Ayana's hand lingered on her waist as he set her on the ground, his touch sending unexpected warmth through her body. "Because the spirit spoke to me in a vision. They showed me a woman with hair like sunset and eyes like spring grass, who would bring both great change and great strength to our people." Elena stared at him. That's impossible. You can't have seen me in a vision." "Can I not?" His gaze intensified, studying her face as if memorizing every detail. 3 moons ago, I dreamed of you standing in a place of books and learning, teaching small ones the marks that capture words. I dreamed of your courage when the mountain cats threatened your father's cattle. I dreamed of the night you cut your hair short to tend a sick child, caring nothing for vanity. Elena's breath caught. She had taught at a school in Boston. Her father had raised cattle in New Hampshire before his death, and she had cut her hair to nurse her young cousin through scarlet fever, despite her mother's horror. How could you possibly know those things? The spirits reveal what they will reveal. Ayana's voice was matter-of-fact, but his eyes never left her face. They also showed me that you would choose to stay when the time came. Choose? Elena laughed shakily. I was kidnapped. There's no choice involved. There is always choice, Elena Carmichael. Even here. Even now. That night, Elena was given a small dwelling at the edge of the camp, close enough to be watched, far enough to provide some privacy. A young woman named Kaya brought her food and clean water, studying her with open curiosity. You speak Apache? Kaya asked in halting English. No, but I learn quickly. Elena managed to smile. Will you teach me? Kaya's surprise was evident. Most captives beg to be released, not to learn the language of their captors. Why you want learn? Elena considered the question. Why did she want to learn? The practical answer was survival. Understanding her captors might help her escape. But as she watched Kaya's dark eyes warm with interest, she realized there was more to it than that. Because I want to understand your people, your ways. Kaya nodded approvingly. I teach. But first, you tell me, why your people send you away. You are not. Broken. Broken. Ugly, sick, bad woman. Why they not keep you? Elena found herself laughing despite everything. Because I read too much. Think too much. Ask too many questions. I'm not suitable for marriage, according to my mother. Ah. Kaya's expression cleared. Strong woman. This is good thing. Over the following weeks, Elena began to understand what Kaya meant. Apache women held positions of respect and authority that would have scandalized Boston society. They owned property, made important decisions, and spoke their minds freely. The elderly woman Itza, she learned, was not just Ayana's grandmother, but a powerful medicine woman whose word carried enormous weight. Elena's days fell into a rhythm. Mornings were spent learning Apache from Kaya and other women who had overcome their initial suspicion. She helped with cooking, weaving, and caring for children, her quick mind absorbing not just language, but the intricate social structures that governed Apache life. Afternoons often found her watching the warriors train, her eyes inevitably drawn to Ayana's powerful form as he practiced with lance and bow. He was magnificent, all fluid motion and controlled strength. When he fought, there was a deadly grace to his movements that made her pulse quicken in ways she didn't fully understand. Sometimes she caught him watching her too, his dark gaze unreadable but intense. The first time they spoke alone was after a month in the camp. Elena had been sitting by the stream that wound through the canyon, trying to work out a particularly difficult Apache phrase, when his shadow fell across her. You learn our language quickly, he observed, settling beside her on the grassy bank. Languages have always come easily to me. Elena was acutely aware of his proximity, the way the fading sunlight played across his bronze skin, the clean scent of sage and leather that seemed to cling to him, though I'm still struggling with some of the more complex grammatical structures. Speak to me in Apache, he commanded gently. Elena took a breath, hoping her pronunciation was correct. Itza says I am learning well, but that my tongue still moves like a white woman's. Ayana's rare smile appeared. Your pronunciation is nearly perfect, but Itza is right. You think in English and translate to Apache. To truly speak our language, you must think as we think. And how do your people think? We think of relationships between all things. Every word connects to every other word, like streams flowing into rivers flowing into the great waters. Your people think in, what is the word? Lines. Straight. One thing, then another thing, then another. Elena considered this, fascinated despite herself. Show me. For the next hour, Ayana patiently explained the concepts underlying Apache thought and language. His intelligence was formidable, Elena realized, equal to any professor she'd known at Harvard. When had she stopped thinking of him as a savage warrior and started seeing him as… what? A man whose mind matched her own? "Why did you really take me?" she asked suddenly. Not the vision, the real reason. Ayana was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. When he spoke, his voice was low and thoughtful. "My people are dying, Elena. Not from war, though we fight that too, but from the slow death of a people who see their world disappearing. The old ways are not enough anymore. We need adaptation, new knowledge, new blood. And you think I can provide that? I think you can provide many things." His gaze met hers, and she felt that strange flutter in her chest again. "The question is whether you will choose to. If you're loving this tale so far, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. I'm working hard to reach 50 subscribers, and every single one of you makes a difference. Help me grow this channel." Now, back to Elena. The question haunted Elena through the following weeks. Her life in the camp had become surprisingly comfortable. She had friends among the women, children who ran to greet her each morning, and work that felt meaningful. She was teaching some of the younger Apache to read and write English, while they taught her traditional crafts and stories. And there was Ayana. She found herself thinking about him constantly, the way his eyes crinkled when he laughed at something one of the children said, the patient way he explained Apache customs, the strength in his hands when he helped her down from his horse. Her feelings for him were growing beyond mere attraction into something deeper and more dangerous. The crisis came during Elena's third month in camp. A group of soldiers arrived under a flag of truce, demanding the return of the white woman stolen from the Tucson stage. Elena watched from concealment as their leader, a pompous captain named Morrison, negotiated with the Apache Council. "We know you have her," Morrison declared. "Miss Elena Carmichael of Boston, intended bride of Walter Hennessy. Mr. Hennessy is prepared to pay a substantial ransom for her safe return." Elena's heart clenched. Walter Hennessy, the man she'd never met who expected a docile wife. She'd almost forgotten about him in the warmth of her new life. "The woman is not here," Ayana replied calmly. "Perhaps she died in the attack." "Don't play games with me, Apache. We tracked your party directly here. Produce the woman or face the consequences." Elena stepped out from behind the rocks before anyone could stop her. "I'm here, Captain Morrison." The captain's relief was palpable. "Miss Carmichael, thank God, are you… Have they… that is, have you been harmed?" Elena almost laughed at his delicate phrasing. "I've been treated with great kindness and respect, Captain. Better, in fact, than I expected to be treated by my intended husband." Morrison blinked in confusion. "I don't understand. You're eager to return to civilization, surely, to your proper place in society? And what place is that, exactly?" Elena's voice carried a new strength, one she'd learned from Apache women. "As Walter Hennessy's property? A silent ornament in his house, producing children and keeping my opinions to myself? Miss Carmichael, you're clearly suffering from the effects of captivity. Perhaps Stockholm Syndrome. You're not thinking clearly." "On the contrary, Captain, I'm thinking more clearly than I ever have in my life." Elena turned to face Ayana and the assembled Apache. In their language, she said, "I choose to stay, if you will have me." The silence that followed was deafening. Then Itza stepped forward, her weathered face creased in what might have been approval. "The fire hair woman has spoken," the medicine woman declared in Apache. "She chooses our way freely. Let no man say otherwise." Captain Morrison sputtered protests, threats, and promises of military action, but Elena barely heard him. Her attention was fixed on Ayana, whose dark eyes blazed with something that made her knees weak. "You understand what you choose?" he asked quietly. "I understand that I choose you," she replied, her heart hammering. "If you'll have me." His answer was to step forward and cup her face in his strong hands, his thumbs tracing her cheekbones with infinite gentleness. I have waited 3 moons for those words." When he kissed her, Elena felt the last walls of her old life crumble. His lips were warm and firm, tasting of wild honey and promises. She melted against him, her hands fisting in his shirt, and felt his arm tighten around her waist. Around them, the Apache began to cheer and ululate, while Captain Morrison cursed and threatened military retribution. Elena didn't care. She was home. The marriage ceremony took place 3 days later, a blend of Apache tradition and Elena's own heritage. She wore a dress of soft deerskin decorated with intricate beadwork that had taken the women days to complete. Ayana appeared in his finest war shirt, silver ornaments gleaming in his black hair. Itza conducted the ceremony with ancient words and sacred smoke, but Elena had insisted on including vows of her own, promises spoken in both English and Apache that made several of the women weep. "I take you as my husband, my partner, my equal," she said, her voice carrying across the canyon. "I promise to walk beside you, not behind you, to share your burdens and your joys, to help our people find new ways to be strong in a changing world." Ayana's vows were simpler, but no less powerful. "I take you as my wife, my heart, my other self. What is mine is yours. What threatens you threatens me. Together we will be stronger than either could be alone." When it was over and they were truly married, Ayana lifted Elena in his arms and carried her to their dwelling, no longer the small hut at the edge of camp, but a larger structure in the heart of the community. Their marriage lodge had been decorated with flowers and blessed by the medicine woman. That night, as they lay entwined beneath soft furs, Elena marveled at the journey that had brought her here. Ayana's hands were gentle as they explored her body, his touch reverent and passionate by turns. When he made love to her, it was with a tenderness that brought tears to her eyes and a fire that burned away the last vestiges of her former self. No regrets. He whispered against her hair as they lay sated and content. "Only that it took me so long to find you," she replied, tracing patterns on his chest. "Though I suppose you found me. The spirits brought us together. They have plans for us, I think." Elena was beginning to believe him. The years that followed proved Ayana's vision prophetic. Elena threw herself into learning everything she could about Apache culture, history, and traditions. She became fluent in the language, skilled in traditional crafts, and knowledgeable about medicinal plants and healing practices. But she also brought her own gifts to the tribe. She established a school where Apache children learned to read and write in both English and their native language. She helped negotiate treaties with white settlers, her education and background allowing her to navigate both worlds. Most importantly, she began documenting Apache oral traditions, creating a written record of stories and knowledge that might otherwise be lost. Her marriage to Ayana deepened with each passing season. They were partners in every sense. He sought her counsel on matters of leadership, while she relied on his wisdom and strength. Their lovemaking remained passionate and tender, a source of joy and connection that sustained them through difficult times. The children came in due course. First a son with his father's dark eyes and his mother's stubborn chin, then twin daughters whose laughter rang through the canyon like silver bells. Each child was raised to be proud of both their Apache and white heritage, to see strength in their mixed blood rather than division. But it was the adoption of other children that truly fulfilled the vision Ayana had seen so long ago. Word spread among white settlements of the Apache woman who welcomed orphaned and abandoned children regardless of their race. Mexican children, white children, children of mixed heritage, all found a home in Elena and Ayana's lodge, and in the growing community they were helping to build. "We are creating something new," Elena said one evening as they watched their diverse brood playing in the firelight. "Not Apache, not white, but something that takes the best of both worlds." "A new kind of warrior," Ayana agreed, pulling her close. "Warriors of the mind and heart as well as the body. Is that what your vision showed you?" "My vision showed me you," he said simply. "Everything else has been our choice to create together." As Elena looked around at their thriving community, Apache children learning to read, white orphans learning to track, everyone growing strong and proud in their mixed heritage, She understood what they were truly building. Not just a family or even a tribe, but a new way of being in the world. A people who could adapt and survive whatever changes came. The fierce warrior race they were founding wouldn't be fierce in the old way of raids and battles, though they could fight when necessary. They would be fierce in their determination to preserve what was valuable from the past, while embracing what was useful from the future. Fierce in their loyalty to each other and their commitment to protecting the weak. Fierce in their love. Years later, when anthropologists came to study the unique community that had grown in the hidden canyon, they would struggle to classify what they found. The population was racially diverse but culturally unified, technologically advanced but deeply rooted in traditional wisdom, militarily capable but fundamentally peaceful. Elena, now a grandmother with silver threading through her auburn hair, would smile at their confusion. "We are simply what happens when people choose love over fear," she would tell them, "when they choose to build bridges instead of walls." Thank you so much for reading, listening to this story. If you enjoyed it, please smash that like button and subscribe to help me reach my goal of 50 subscribers. Your support helps me create more amazing Western romance stories for you. What did you think of this story? Let me know in the comments below. But in the quiet moments when it was just her and Ayana, now a distinguished elder with laugh lines around his dark eyes, she knew the truth was both simpler and more complex. They had created something new, because they had dared to see each other as fully human, not Apache or white, not captor or captive, but two souls who chose to become one while remaining themselves. Their fierce new warrior race was founded not on blood or tradition alone, but on the revolutionary idea that love could indeed conquer all, if you were brave enough to let it transform you.